Imagine a battle so brutal that the most powerful sages were completely crushed and elite gods were broken in absolute agony. This is not a dark fantasy movie. This is the ultimate terrifying wrath of Lord Shiva. Welcome to part 3 of our epic series. If you haven't watched part 1, where Daksha insulted Shiva, and part 2, where Sati revealed the Dasa Mahavidyas and sacrificed her life, make sure to check them out on our channel right after this. But today, the time for mourning is over. Shiva strikes the ground with a lock of his hair and unleashes Virabhadra, a weapon of mass destruction with 1,000 heads. Today, you will witness a cosmic demolition where the highest gods run for their lives, Lord Vishnu refuses to interfere, and an arrogant king faces an unimaginable punishment. Brace yourself, because what happens next will shake your very soul. Before we unleash this divine destruction, hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon. You do not want to miss the intense conclusion of this saga. Smash the like button to show your devotion to Mahadev, and let's dive right into the battlefield. Virabhadra and Bhadrakali. Both were born from Shiva's power and carried immense strength. Standing before Shiva, Virabhadra bowed and waited for his command. Once he learned what had happened to Sati, there was only one mission left. The march towards Daksha's sacrifice began, and it was no ordinary army. Along with Virabhadra, the divine forces of Shakti and the goddess in her various forms, Kali, Katyamani, Ishani, Chandika, Bhadrakali, Bhadra, and the other manifestations of Navadurga, set forth with their celestial armies, each deity leading a retinue of 100,000 followers. Along with them marched the Shakinis, Dakinis, Pramadaganas, Kushmandas, Bhairavas, Brahma Rakshasas, Yoginis, and countless Yogini Ganas. Among them were the Jwalakeshas, whose very hair blazed with fire. As these innumerable celestial beings approached the sacrifice grounds, strange signs began to appear. The earth shook beneath people's feet. Darkness covered the sky, even though it was midday. Powerful winds filled the air with dust. Birds circled above the ritual grounds in an unsettling pattern. Fear spread among those gathered there. Then, at last, Virabhadra arrived. The sight alone was enough to terrify the crowd. Some fainted where they stood. Others ran in panic. Chaos quickly swallowed the once proud ceremony. Whoever stood before them was mercilessly crushed and defeated. Virabhadra moved through the assembly like a storm. His search had only one goal: Daksha. The ruler finally came face to face with the being created from Shiva's wrath. Even then, Daksha refused to surrender. Armed with an axe, he rushed forward to fight. The attempt lasted only moments. Virabhadra lifted him effortlessly with one hand, spun him through the air, and threw him aside. The axe was torn from Daksha's grasp and broken as though it were nothing. For the first time, Daksha truly understood the scale of the disaster around him. Fear took hold. In desperation, he turned his thoughts towards Vishnu. Believing that only Vishnu could save him now, Daksha prayed for protection. Almost immediately, Vishnu appeared before the assembly. Falling at his feet, Daksha begged for protection. He pointed towards the destruction unfolding around him and pleaded for intervention. But Vishnu's response was not what Daksha expected. Looking across the ruined sacrifice, Vishnu spoke calmly. The offense committed here was not a simple mistake. Daksha had insulted Shiva.
According to the ancient tradition, Shiva and Vishnu were not rivals standing on opposite sides. They were understood as different expressions of the same divine reality. Because of that, Vishnu could not stand against a purpose already set in motion by Shiva. Instead, he offered only one path. Go to Shiva, he advised. Ask for forgiveness. Only Shiva can grant you protection now. With those words, Vishnu departed. Daksha was left speechless. Meanwhile, Virabhadra continued his assault. No one who had supported the insult against Shiva escaped notice. Grabbing Kubera with his left hand, he hurled him away with such force that he landed in Alakapuri. When Yama Dharmaraja sit upon his buffalo, a single mighty kick sent both Yama and his mount back to Yamaloka in an instant. Others faced punishment according to their actions during the assembly. Seizing Bhava, Virabhadra declared, "When Shiva was being insulted, you stood by and watched in silence." With that, he broke both his legs and cast him into the sacrificial fire. He then turned to Pusha and said, "Did you not stroke your beard and smile while witnessing the disrespect shown to the Lord?" Grasping Pusha's beard, he pulled it with tremendous force, tearing it away along with the skin beneath, leaving the flesh exposed. Turning to Indra, Virabhadra thundered, "Have you come to partake of the sacrificial offerings from a yajna that excluded Lord Shiva?" Then he subdued Indra and poured molten lead into his ears as punishment. One by one, the pillars of Daksha's gathering began to fall. The great sacrifice that had started as a display of pride was now collapsing into complete ruin. The offerings, ritual objects, and decorations of the sacrifice were scattered and destroyed. Everything Daksha had built through pride was falling apart before his eyes. Still unwilling to surrender, Daksha once again reached for a weapon. Before he could act, the sage Brigu used his spiritual power and created another vast army called Brigu Ganas. Countless warriors emerged continuously in their millions and millions, appearing on the battlefield without end. But in response, Virabhadra's army suddenly expanded to gigantic proportions and began swallowing those fierce beings whole. No matter how many forces arose, Virabhadra's army devoured them as swiftly as they appeared. The battle ended almost as quickly as it began. Now only one task remained. Virabhadra stepped toward Daksha. Filled with anger, he seized him and attempted to strike off his head with a powerful blow. Yet something unexpected happened. The weapon connected, the sound echoed, but Daksha's head remained untouched. Again and again Virabhadra struck. Each blow produced the same result. For a moment, even Virabhadra was confused. Then a new figure appeared. Ma Saraswati arrived and revealed the reason. Daksha, she explained, had strengthened his body through years of rituals and discipline. His physical form could not be destroyed through ordinary means. The answer was different. If Daksha was to die, he had to be treated as a sacrificial offering rather than a warrior on the battlefield. The explanation changed everything. Did you know Daksha's body was immune to ordinary weapons? Let us know in the comments if you saw this shocking twist coming. Type Om Namah Shivaya down below and let's see how Virabhadra finally finishes the job. Offering his respects to goddess Saraswati, Virabhadra understood the means by which Daksha could be slain. With his 1,000 mighty arms, he sealed all Daksha's bodily openings, covering his eyes, nose, mouth, ears, and the remaining orifices, leaving him unable to breathe. Overwhelmed and gasping for air, Daksha Prajapati eventually perished. After his death, Virabhadra took up an axe, anointed its blade with milk foam according to sacred tradition, and with a single stroke severed Daksha's head, casting it into the sacrificial fire. In the end, nothing remained but ashes. After completely destroying the sacrificial arena, Virabhadra went to the Tulyabhaga river to wash the blood from his axe. Yet no matter how long he cleansed it, the stains refused to fade.
At last, he reached the sacred waters of the Godavari near Pattisima and washed the axe there, where its lingering marks were finally purified. Meanwhile, some of the gods and sages who had escaped from the sacrifice hurried to Lord Brahma and pleaded with him to save those who had been grievously injured. Hearing their distress, Brahma went to Lord Vishnu and narrated everything that had transpired. Lord Vishnu then said, "Only Bholanath, Lord Shiva himself, can restore order and set things right." With that, Brahma, Vishnu and the assembled gods set out together toward Kailasa to seek Lord Shiva's grace. All the gods approached Lord Shankara and sought his forgiveness. The compassionate Mahashiva immediately forgave them. They then pleaded with him to heal those whose limbs were broken and whose bodies had suffered in the devastation. Moved by their prayers, Lord Shiva set out for Daksha's sacrifice. He restored life to all who had perished and commanded the Ashwini devas, the divine physicians, to heal the wounded. To sage Bhrigu, whose beard had been torn away, he bestowed the beard of a goat. Thus, one by one, all things were set right. At last, Shiva came before Daksha and turned to Virabhadra and asked, "Where is his head?" Lowering his head in reverence, Virabhadra replied, "My lord, I severed his head and cast it into the sacrificial fire." For a brief moment, Shiva remained silent. Then he made a decision. A goat's head was brought forward and placed upon Daksha's body. Life returned. Daksha opened his eyes. The first figure he saw standing before him was Shiva. At that moment, something changed. The pride that had guided his actions disappeared. The arrogance that had fueled the conflict was gone. Without speaking, Daksha folded his hands and bowed his head. The lesson had finally been learned. Yet another scene still awaited Shiva. Nearby lay the remains of Sati. To others it appeared nothing more than ash, but to the eyes of Mahashiva it looked like a charred piece of wood. The very sight of it stirred his heart with deep compassion and sorrow. Grief now replaced anger. The destruction had ended, but the sorrow remained. Lifting Sati's body onto his shoulder, Shiva began to wander across the worlds. Each step seemed to shake existence itself. The gods watched with growing concern. If this continued, they feared the balance of creation could be threatened. Unsure of what to do, they once again turned to Vishnu. This time, Vishnu acted to protect the worlds. With the intention of protecting all the worlds and restoring cosmic balance, Lord Vishnu took up his Sharanga bow and released his divine arrows, causing the body of goddess Sati to fall to the earth in sacred fragments. As the sacred remains fell across different regions of the land, each location became known as a Shakti Peetha. Over time, these places would become important centers of worship and remembrance. The moment Sati's body was fully released, Shiva slowly emerged from his grief-filled dance. The storm of destruction faded, the anger subsided, only sadness remained. Withdrawing from the world, Shiva returned to Kailasa. There, he entered deep meditation and remained absorbed in silence for a very long time. The wrath of Shiva is terrifying, but his sorrow is heartbreaking. If this epic finale gave you chills, share this video with your friends and family so they can witness the power of Mahakal. Drop a like, subscribe to Vak Shakti, and tell us in the comments which part of Virabhadra's rampage shocked you the most. See you in our next video.